Okay, let's dive into this explainer. Today, we're unraveling the story of a man whose name you might not immediately know, but whose brilliant ideas are, quite literally, etched into the American landscape. We're talking about Seth Raynor, the engineer who became an artist. We're going to explore the mystery of this incredibly quiet, often forgotten mastermind who left an absolutely massive legacy in the world of golf architecture.
To really wrap our heads around Raynor, we kind of have to start right here. Some architects leave behind golf courses. The greatest leave behind a way of seeing the land that inspires generations to come. Now that sets a pretty reverent, almost deeply artistic tone right out of the gate, doesn't it? Because Raynor's work wasn't just about, moving some dirt around to create a playing field. No, it was about this unique, enduring vision. He completely transformed strategic golf architecture into a lasting American tradition.
Section 1. A career cut short. The tragic loss of a quiet genius.
Unlike so many celebrated figures in sports, Seth Raynor never really cared about being famous. He was a mastermind who would take blueprints over banquets and survey stakes over speeches any day of the week. He didn't want the spotlight. The guy just wanted to build. Which is exactly what makes this number so profoundly shocking to the golf world. 51. In January of 1926, while he was traveling down in Florida, Raynor suffered a fatal illness and passed away. He was just 51 years old. I mean, think about it. Some architects get decades and decades to refine their craft, but Raynor just didn't. His sudden passing left dozens of projects completely unfinished, and honestly, it left countless admirers wondering just what else he might have accomplished if he had more time.
Just look at the remarkably short span of his life and career. He was born in 1874 in Southampton, New York, but his actual architectural career didn't even get off the ground until around 1906, and then, by 1926, it was all over. That is barely 2 decades of work. Yet within that incredibly brief window, he created a body of work that still ranks among America's absolute finest. It really makes you appreciate just how concentrated and explosive his genius actually was.
Section 2. More than a protégé. The partnership that changed American golf.
So history sometimes gets it wrong and remembers Raynor simply as the shadow of his famous mentor, C.B. Macdonald. But honestly, that description falls entirely short of the truth. And this brilliantly illustrates why. Macdonald dreamed, but Raynor refined. Macdonald imagined, but Raynor executed. These were two very distinct, incredibly vital roles. Sure, Macdonald provided the philosophical foundation, but it was Raynor who transformed those big ideas into a real design language that could actually flourish across the wild, diverse landscapes of America. By the end of his career, Raynor wasn't following Macdonald at all. He was standing right beside him as a total equal, and easily one of the finest architects in the whole country.
Together, these two basically launched America's golden age of golf architecture. We're talking about a massive era of design characterized by a strategic evolution that pushed golf way, way beyond its traditional Scottish roots. And the engine behind this massive movement? It was absolutely Raynor. His strict engineering discipline brought the much-needed consistency, and his eye for proportion brought the elegance required to propel the whole thing forward.
Section 3. Engineering that disappears. The invisible brilliance of Raynor's work.
All right, let's play archaeologist for a minute and dust off his subtle methods. The absolute core of his invisible brilliance really comes down to this one thought. The greatest compliment an engineer receives is invisibility. Think about it. Golfers rarely, if ever, notice perfect drainage, right? They seldom admire careful grading. And Raynor fully understood this. He intentionally hid all of his complex technical decisions beneath every single fairway, so that the player could just focus purely on the strategy and the joy of the game. It's a literal masterclass in solving practical problems without ever waving a flag and drawing attention to them.
But when you actually uncover that invisible engineering, you find these really distinct architectural hallmarks. We're talking precision engineering, strategic ideal holes, bold green complexes, elegant routing, and just timeless playability. What's so endlessly fascinating here is how Raynor's exceptional eye for proportion managed to create such breathtaking elegance out of strict, almost mathematical engineering discipline. The artistry and the science were just in perfect harmony.
And I've got to say, nowhere is that harmony more obvious than on his greens. Ask any modern golf architect what they admire most about Raynor, and I guarantee they'll point straight to his broad, bold putting surfaces. It's a brilliant balancing act. For elite professionals, the greens remain strategically challenging, demanding immense restraint. But then, for your everyday golfers, they're perfectly enjoyable and super imaginative. Achieving that dual outcome, where a course doesn't just totally punish the amateur, but still manages to test the pro, is incredibly rare.
even today. Section 4. A course that teaches how Raynor's designs educate the player.
Now, what's really interesting about this concept is how Raynor introduced an idea you rarely ever hear about in sports architecture. He built courses that actively teach the player as they walk the landscape. And it happens in this beautifully logical progression. Step 1. Golfers begin noticing angles off the tee. That naturally leads to Step 2, where they start actively finding the preferred sides of the fairways to set up their next shot. By Step 3, they are reading the subtle contours he engineered right into the earth. And finally, Step 4. They're constantly weighing risk and reward opportunities. Literally, without even realizing it, the golfer is being transformed into a student of architecture. It all comes right back to this fundamental philosophical, Raynor believed golf should reward observation. Every single round offers another lesson, and every visit reveals some new, hidden detail. This built-in educational quality is exactly why experienced players appreciate his work more and more with every single visit. It never gets old, it just gets deeper.
Section 5. The Raynor Renaissance. Rediscovering the bold strategic features. Sadly, for a long time after his death, a lot of his architectural details basically disappeared beneath decades of well-meaning but honestly misguided renovations. As we moved into the latter half of the 20th century, trees started encroaching on his wide fairways, his sharp bunkers got softened, and the greens shrank. But then something totally remarkable happened. Clubs began restoring rather than redesigning. Historians and architects started digging up Raynor's original plans and studying old historic photographs. They suddenly realized what had been lost, and they brought back the bold strategic features he originally intended. Because of this massive effort, his reputation absolutely soared, and today, his restored masterpieces rank higher than they ever have before. Seriously, if you want proof of his massive, enduring legacy, just look at the legendary modern architects who are actively influenced by him today. You've got Tom Doak, who constantly praises the enduring quality of the Golden Age, Gil Hanse, who frequently studies Raynor's greens, and Bill Corr and Ben Crenshaw, who fully embrace his natural routing philosophies. These are literally the biggest names in the modern era, intentionally returning to a design language that Raynor perfected a full century ago.
Let's move on and see how this builds into an incredible contrast between eras. Today, obviously, we have a drastic change in modern tools. We're talking computer modeling predicting drainage, satellites measuring elevation, and massive heavy machinery. But Raynor's principles? Study the land first, think strategically, build boldly, keep features purposeful. The tools have completely fundamentally changed, but the principles? They possessed total permanence.
The measure of greatness. Ultimately, how do we judge an architect like Seth Raynor? Well, it isn't by trophies hosted or the prestige of the membership. His influence is measured by brilliant ideas that absolutely refuse to fade from the landscape. It's measured by the amazing fact that he continues to inspire architects who were born decades after his death. So the crucial point is this. Great architecture is never accidental. It is carefully crafted, it is quietly confident. Whether you are looking at his iconic work at Yale, Camargo, or Fisher's Island, Raynor always chose strategy over spectacle. He chose thoughtful routing over unnecessary complexity every single time. Which leaves us with a pretty big question to ponder. Next time you walk a carefully crafted landscape, will you notice the invisible engineering beneath your feet? Seth Raynor proved that precision and artistry can exist in perfect harmony, if only we take the time to observe it. So keep your eyes open. Look a little closer at the unseen craftsmanship shaping our world. And whatever you do, never stop learning.